For this particular lesson, we're working on ways to improve your values with watercolor. I'll give you some ideas. Something like maybe this. I've been doing a watercolor series lately, so I've been really trying to push my deep dark values, so ways to really get those added to your paintings to make it look more realistic and more interesting, really. Here's another idea, you know, also the deep values here, and then knowing where the values need to go. Knowing that if a leaf is laying over the top of the other one, where that sunlight is going to be hitting and where that value really needs to go, okay? Here's another one. This is one I've been working on recently. I've really been trying to push my values with this particular watercolor series that I'm doing. And this one, I was able to achieve really deep darks without adding any black. I'm adding deep dark brown to all my colors to go for those really neutralized values instead of the black, because often the black is too stark. And it really doesn't work well. So that's how I was able to achieve this deep dark realism in this particular flower. So that is what I'm going to teach you today. Okay, I sketched out just a flower here, okay? I don't even know what kind of flower it is. I just kind of sketched out a bunch of petals and a stem down here and some leaves. So let's start on one of the petals of this flower. And I would recommend, if you're just learning how to do these value bleeds, I would recommend making a flower very large like this to start with, or anything, but maybe just a flower to start with so that you get the hang of how to do it, and then you can make whatever you want, okay? Let's start with this petal right here. It's nice and big. It's right in the center. It's up on top. So I'm thinking that I'm just gonna dip my brush in the water and I'm gonna go ahead and add water in there. These are my two brushes that I'm gonna use to do this whole painting. One of my real small ones, you know, that way I can really get into the corners of some of these areas really well. You'll see why in a minute. And then this brush, because it can fan out, you know, and get a lot thicker and bigger too. But I'm just loading it with fresh water, and I'm just gonna get that water in this petal. I'm just taking my time because I don't wanna really go over that pencil line that I made. And I would also recommend sketching very lightly, because some people, you know, watercolor is transparent, and it bothers people later sometimes because their edges you can see the pencil mark if you have a light color in that area, you know, up against that pencil mark. So if you just sketch very light, that will work better for you. So I'm just making sure that I'm getting all the way to the edge. I'm just getting enough water on there so that it can start to work with the paper, okay? All right, ahead of time, here's what I did. Before I started this video, I dropped a little bit of water right there on that red because I know I'm gonna do red. So I'm just gonna pick up that pigment. It's quite a bit of pigment, really. And I think I have some leftover green right here. I'm gonna add it to that green, to tell you the truth, because I really like deep dark reds. See how beautiful that's like a maroon color. I really like that. So what I'm gonna do is the top of this petal is going to have the sunlight shining like this, okay? I really don't want to put red up there, that deep dark red. I would rather go ahead and drop it in right down here like this, okay? That's what I would rather do, because I know that the sun is probably not going to be hitting inside that area, okay? And then I'm just gonna do this and kind of get it in there. Okay, and just kind of see what happens. But what I need to do now, is take my paper and just do a little tip, okay? I'm just gonna tip it. I don't know if you can see what's happening right here, but kind of cool. And I've got these really pretty, do you see those little lines that are going in and around all of these tiny little texture grooves of this watercolor paper? So cool, okay? I can bring this around if I want and just kind of bring it around like this. I can now, if I want to, I can just kind of tilt it a little bit more and get it to go a little bit more over here. But what I want to do now, guys, is take this brush and I'm dipping it in the water right now. And I'm just rinsing it out just a little bit, not a lot, okay? Just enough to get some of that pigment out. And then now what I wanna do is get a little bit of it up here so that I have a pink color. Just right up in here in this top area, okay? And then I can pull if I want to. I'm just gonna pull a few because I like how these little blossom looking things look. If you can see that. Sometimes I like to play around with how those look. But that is kind of the beginning of something pretty cool. What I would like to do is push the values right in here, because right now, if you look at this, there are 3 values on this petal. There's a dark red, there's a light pink red, and then there's white, obviously. So I only have 3 values right here. I really need more. I really need more values. So I'm gonna switch to this skinny brush, and I still have time because I know that it's pretty wet still. I still have time to do this. So I'm gonna take some dark brown, okay? I'm just gonna dip it in water, and I'm just taking a little bit of dark brown. I can show you which one. I've got that bright one. That one's more like a rusty brown. I think I'm gonna go with this one right here. The one right next to it is black. You know that I stay away from black at all times. So I'm taking that deep dark brown. Here is my maroon color that I made before that I really like. I'm just pulling a little bit of it out like that. And I'm gonna grab a little bit more of that deep dark brown, okay? And I'm just making a color that's going to be darker, obviously. Okay, it's even darker and more browny than that maroon color that I came up with. So I'm coming in and I'm just dropping some of that dark color, okay? I drop color in more than I paint color on. Does that make sense? So when I'm going in, I don't just paint it like this all the way around. I like to load up my brush. I know I've got quite a bit on there, and I just drop that paint in. Do you see that happening? And if you drop it in, you get more, you get thicker color saturation, okay? Thicker color saturation is what happens when you're dropping it in instead of painting it in, okay? So now I've got some really dark, deep dark values right there. And then when I go in, after this petal is dry, which would be tomorrow, I would probably want to do this petal, and the top of this petal would be light, similar to the top of this petal, and then the bottom would be more dark like this petal, okay? That's how I was able to achieve some of the looks, you know, the real dark saturation in some of these. And then going in later, you can see how I went in later and made just some of those little fine details, okay? But this is the idea. As it's sitting, I'm even looking at it a little bit more and seeing that I could probably drop in a few more brown areas just to really push that value a little bit more. And if I just drop it in right there, that's kind of cool. You know, that gives you a really dark area right there. And then maybe I could leave, you know, leave the others as they are. Maybe I could just drop in a little bit over here. But it's looking really, really good. And you see this bleeding that's happening right here? That right there is what is really cool. And that is how people are able to make flower petals look realistic, because they use the pigment, or the texture of this paper. They use it to their advantage when they're applying their color, and they get it to bleed certain ways. They tilt their paper and get it to flow into those little crevices, and learn how to maneuver the water and the paint on their paper. So hopefully this will help you to make, you know, more realistic. I'm just popping in a little bit of darkness right there because I thought that might be kind of cool. Hopefully this will help you to make more realistic, even flower petals, obviously, is what we're going to do first. But if you want to do this, you could do this technique on trees, like a tree trunk, if you wanted to. You could do this technique on in water. If you were, you know, obviously these strokes would be more horizontal going across your paper. You could do this on rocks. If you know, on a mountain with some rocks, that would be really cool. This would work with a waterfall. So really, it's versatile. You can use it in many, many different ways. So work on your petals first, one at a time, and then try to not work on the petal touching the one that you just did, because if this one is too wet, you would not want to do this petal next right here. You would want to move over and do another petal. Like this one right here is not touching. This would probably be my next petal that I work on, okay? And then after I work on this one, I could probably jump over and work on this one. I might be able to do this one, and this one in one day. And then I might move on down and maybe do my leaves down here in my stem, because they're not touching any wet water. And then the next day I come in, this is dry. I could definitely do this one and this one. And then I would maybe want to wait on this one. Finish up the stem